Hello, my dear friends. I'm Mr. Muhammad Kamel, science teacher. Welcome back in a new science lesson and a new session too. Today, guys, we're gonna start with lesson 3, chapter 6, Earth's resources, and the third lesson it's what are weathering and erosion. Today, guys, I will tell you about weathering, erosion, and deposition. These three processes that make different land features in our planet. You can make this experiment at your home. You can take a screenshot for it and try it yourself at home. And now let me tell you about Earth's surface. The outer layer of our Earth's surface, it's called crust. It's called crust. After it, we have mantle, outer core, and inner core. The outer layer, guy, of Earth's surface, it's called crust. If you want to understand more, if you get one fruit, one peach, the skin of that peach is representing crust. Maybe you think it's a so thin layer, but in fact it's not. It's 100-kilometer thickness. Today, my friend, I'll tell you about landform. What I mean with landform. Landform is a natural land feature on Earth's surface, like mountains, hills, plains, plateaus, valleys, canyons. They are all examples of landforms. We can claim that our home or our schools are landform because they are not natural. Mountains, plains, plateaus are all examples of landform. They have different sizes and different shapes too. Mountains and hills, valleys, canyons, they all have different features. They have own characteristics and properties. They have different shapes and sizes. Landforms can be found even underwater, not only above Earth's surface. How can we know the location of those different features? We using maps to know the location of those different landforms. Some landforms can take shape quickly, while others form over millions of years, like mountains. Weathering, our first process. Weathering, guys, it is a process by which rocks are slowly broken into smaller pieces. So broken down of rocks into smaller pieces, this process it's called weathering. We have two types of weathering, physical weathering and chemical weathering. Let's start talking with the chemical weathering. Chemical weathering, guys, it's a process that breaks down rock through chemical changes into different materials. So in this type of weathering, we change the rock, it's chemically changed. The agents of chemical weathering are carbon dioxide in the air and rainwater. When the carbon dioxide from the air around us combined chemically with rainwater, it will make something called acid rain, which is a weak acid. And when that weak acid fall on rocks, it will make the rocks to slowly to be broken down into smaller pieces and even change the type of rock. So the breakdown of rock through chemical process like acid rain, it's called chemical weathering. From where the carbon dioxide came? From animals, plants, humans, factories, cars. All of these guys, they give off carbon dioxide. When it's combined with rainwater, it will make acid rain, which is a weak acid. Understand the chemical weathering simply. Look at my camera here. All what you need is just get small pieces of chalk, like this one, and vinegar. Okay? Put small droplets of vinegar on these pieces of chalk, and immediately you will notice how the small pieces of chalk are broken down into smaller pieces, or like they are melting. That's an example of when vinegar, which is a weak acid, fall on a sedimentary rock like chalk, and it will cause chemical weathering. Animals and plants, they give off chemicals called weathering, which is carbon dioxide. People also add chemicals to environment through their activities, through factories, cars. Water and warm temperature even are important form of chemical weathering. That's why the wet areas have more weathering than dry or snowy places. Second type of weathering, which is physical weathering. It's a type which is breaking down the rocks without a change in the type of rocks. So simply, it's a process by which rocks are broken down into smaller pieces of the same kind of rock. So physical weathering only breaking the rocks into smaller pieces, but don't change the rock chemically. What causes physical weathering? Flowing water, waves, wind, ice, temperature, and even living things. Flowing water makes the particles scrap against larger rocks, where it can carry even smaller particles that can weather rocks. When there is a sandstorm, the small particles of sand, when it's just scrapping against rocks, it will make the rocks to be broken down. The flowing water with carrying sediments, carrying pebble, particles of mud and clay, also cause weathering to the street, to the riverbed. Ice weathering. When the water, guys, water, unlike many other substances, water, when we cool it, it increases in size. Okay, so when the water fill on those cracks, the water when it freezes, it expands in size, and when the expansion of size of the water after it cooled and freeze, it will make the rocks to be broken down. That's why ice causes weathering. It makes the rocks to eventually split. Temperature change the rock. When the sun rises and the weather is hot, it makes the rocks to expand. At night, the rocks contract. Morning, expand. Night, contract. The expansion and contraction, the expanding and contracting of the rock that finally cause the rocks to be weaker and weaker, and finally weathering occurs and makes the rocks to be broken down. Plants and animals. Plants, when it grow in size, when the stem or roots grow in size, it makes the rocks to split. And even animals, when they make in pairs, ants, rabbits, mice, they're all caused by weathering in rocks. How can water cause both chemical and physical weathering? That's right. The water gas can carry particles which cause physical weathering, or even can combine with chemicals to form weak acids that change rocks. The second process, it's called erosion. Erosion, my friends, this is a process by which water, ice, wind, or gravity carry bits of rocks in soil. We understood weathering when those weathered rocks or the small bits of rocks are moved away from one place to another. It's called erosion. It's called erosion. Just like here we have sand. When wind hits the sand particles, it will make the sand to move from one place to another. If we have a storm in this way, even it's also causes erosion, moving the sediments from one place to another. This is a movement of weathered rocks. It's called erosion. Let's talk first about the water erosion, which moving water carries away materials and curved grooves, which over time may become deep canyons, just like the Grand Canyon in America. It's formed by the erosion, the water erosion. Can you see here? While the water is moving, carrying bits of rocks to scrap against the riverbed and cause erosion. And carrying, while the water is moving, it's carrying a lot of sediments with it. Waves erosion. I want you guys to take a look for the picture at the left here. When the wave hit the shoreline, what's happening? Yes, it's carrying pieces of rocks from the beach and making beach fun and just take it deep to the water. So waves change shores by pounding against it and carrying away the pieces and form beach. Ice erosion. When glaciers and big pieces of ice are falling from a mountain because of gravity, it will make bits of rocks beneath it to be broken down and carrying it down the hill. That's how the glaciers move down a mountain side that transport sediments of all sizes. Deposition, the third process. Deposition, guys, it's a laying down of pieces of rocks. Deposition can form delta when the water or a river carrying sediments and just the deposition occurs where the settlement of the particles that in the river stream settled, they will form delta. How it's happening? To understand, guys, how the deltas are formed, moving water deposition. As the water shows the pebbles start to settle to the bottom, first the larger pebbles sink, then the smaller sand-sized pebbles, and finally the smallest bits of sand and clay. When deposition, guys, it can form sand dunes. Wind moves grains of sand into mounds or hills called sand dunes, just like the picture below. The size and shape of sand dunes depend on the amount of sand or number of plants and plants in the area. What you mean, mister, is that the number of plants can change the size of the sand dune. Can you see, guys, the picture here, the down? If we imagine that we have a lot of trees are here, are blocking the way of the wind, we have a lot of trees that block in the way of the wind like this, it will cause less sediments to move and that to make the size of the sand dunes to be smaller. Question 7 and 8. Pause the video and answer it, then check your answers. Well, we got to the end of our lesson. Hope you all understand it well. I am Mr. Muhammad Kamal and see you next lesson. Goodbye, everyone.